The Checkpoint is presented by GM Pharma, the first international multinational pharmaceutical company in Georgia. GM Pharma, to serve those who need it most.
This is the third open letter that I address you in 11 years. What incited me to write this letter is that you have solely and unilaterally changed the course of Georgia from heading to Europe to going to Russia, although 80% of the population wants their country to become a full member of the European Union. This is a lead of the open letter that businessman and the president of ICC Georgia, Fady Asly, wrote to Bidzina Ivanishvili, former prime minister of Georgia and the founder of the Georgian Dream, a billionaire who is by many outside and inside Georgia regarded as the only oligarch of the country and its informal ruler. Later, Fady Asly agreed to the short interview with the Checkpoints. Let us start. And what was your main message that you wanted to convey to Mr. Bidzina Ivanishvili this time? This is, as you said, you have already approached him with the open letter a number of times. What makes this time special?
You know, I mean, Georgia today, in my view, is standing at the most dangerous period of its history. Because we are in the process of changing course, unilaterally decided by Mr. Ivanishvili, despite what the Constitution of Georgia says, and despite what a great majority of Georgians want, which is joining the European Union. And Mr. Ivanishvili decided unilaterally, solely, that he will override the Constitution, he will override the will of 80% of the Georgians, and he is throwing us to Russia on a silver plate. And I thought that it is the civic duty of any Georgian to express their opinion regarding this matter very transparently, very openly, very rationally, without emotions. And to draw his attention that what he's doing is undoable by any standard. And so that's one thing. The second thing, you know, whenever there are big events, I always write open letters, whether it was for Mr. Ivanishvili or for the prime ministers previously, just to keep track in history that something was done, okay? Just so people can go back to this and realize that I did say something and I did speak and I tried to change things for the better.
But you didn't address Prime Minister this time. You chose to address Bidzina Ivanishvili. Why?
Listen, the Prime Minister decides of nothing. We all know this. Neither the Speaker of Parliament, neither the chair of the Georgian Dream, neither the leadership of the Georgian Dream. They are all, you know, on the payroll of Mr. Ivanishvili. He is the one who decides of the policy, and they are the one who implement this policy. So I address the decision maker. I don't address the head. I don't address the limbs, the feet, the arms, the legs. No. And that's why, you know, I address the decision maker. Mr. Ivanishvili is the one who decided to do this. And he's the one who's steering the direction of Georgia. He is the one who's instructing his team to speak like this, to antagonize the West, to insult the ambassadors, to insult the European parliamentarians and the American senators, and to spoil the relation with the West. And that's why I address the person who gives orders, not the people who implement the orders.
What is the reason behind this attitude when we all know that we are waiting for the EU candidate country status in October?
Look, I believe that there are two reasons. The first one being a personal grudge of Mr. Ivanishvili against the West, whom he accuses for the right and but most probably wrong reason of being behind the Credit Suisse, not paying him his money. So there is a personal grudge that he holds, because if you go back, you realize that the relations started deteriorating with the West when Credit Suisse decided not to pay him his money. This is when things started going sour. And the second reason because also if you look at the timing, you will realize that it came in the wake of the Azeri military action against Armenia and the Azeri victory in Nagorno-Karabakh that turned President Aliyev into a national hero. And then most probably Mr. Ivanishvili thought that if he could return Abkhazia and Ossetia by having good relations with Russia, this would turn him into a national hero and keep him and his party in power forever. And most probably that's the reason why, also a second reason why, after the victory of Azerbaijan in Nagorno-Karabakh, he decided to take the Russian road and to try to please the Russians in a way that somehow they would agree on returning Abkhazia and the so-called South Ossetia.
But how do you think this last messages that good relations with Russia means higher economic growth for Georgia, that its citizens will become richer because of this, and this is the only path why the Georgian government does not oppose Russia-Georgia relations and does not have its own individual sanctions on Russia. Is it true?
You know, yes, we have higher economic growth, but what is the price of this growth? The price of this growth is turning us total hostages of Russia, who anytime Mr. Ivanishvili will not follow instructions, will close the borders with Georgia, stop the air traffic, stop any kind of traffic with Georgia, stop the exports, stop the imports, stop FDI, and totally asphyxiate us. Today, as I mentioned in my letter, we depend 22% of the value of our GDP in amount of money on Russia. This figure was 8% in 2012. This means we are talking of $5.5 billion of economic interest with Russia. This is like, you know, like the cat that was licking the file. You know, there was the fable, the cat that was licking the file and that was feeling like not hungry anymore because he was eating his own blood. And this is what Mr. Ivanishvili is taking us. He's taking us to a disaster, economic disaster. He's putting Georgia in great danger of being a hostage now of Russia. And the first thing that needs to be done is to decrease our dependence, economic dependence on Russia, and to open other markets as soon as possible, develop our economic activities with the European Union even further, with the West even further, with any other country of the region further, with Armenia, with Azerbaijan, with Central Asia, to mitigate the Russian risk. That is a huge risk for Russia, for Georgia, that can really kill us totally economically.
I noticed that you are signing the letter as Fady Asly businessman and not as, for example, ICC Georgia president. What does that mean? And do you think that a business should be more vocal also in this situation?
Yes, for two reasons. First of all, I expressed my personal opinion, and I believe that other businessmen and businesswomen should also express their opinion regarding this matter. And second, this is not an issue that is linked to the ICC. So I didn't, you know, although the ICC board fully endorsed my message, but I believe that it was more appropriate that I send it as a private businessman.
Thank you so much, Fady. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, Elene.
The Checkpoint is presented by GM Pharma, the first international multinational pharmaceutical company in Georgia. GM Pharma, to serve those who need it most.